Welcome, brave souls, to another chilling tale from the Nightmare Maestro. Tonight we delve into the shadows of nostalgia, where childhood memories twist into something far more sinister. As the veil between past and present thins, four friends will learn that some traditions are better left in the past. Prepare yourselves for a journey into the last trick or treat, where innocence meets terror on the most haunted night of the year. The crisp October air carried the scent of decay and possibility as four figures huddled beneath a flickering streetlight, their breath fogged in the chill, mingling with wisps of mist that crept along the ground. Laughter echoed down the empty street, tinged with nervous energy. Megan adjusted her witch's hat, the same one she'd worn 15 years ago. "I can't believe we're doing this," she said, voice pitched low as if afraid to disturb the night. Beside her, Alex fidgeted with his vampire cape, plastic fangs gleaming. "One last hurrah before real life kicks in, right?" His grin didn't quite reach his eyes. "Speaking of," Jared chimed in, zombie makeup already beginning to flake, "anyone seen a single trick-or-treater? This place is dead." The fourth member of their group, Olivia, remained silent. Her werewolf mask concealed her expression, but her rigid posture spoke volumes. They stood at the entrance to their old neighborhood, Maple Grove Estates. The sign, once proudly proclaiming a family-friendly haven, now hung askew, letters faded and peeling. Streetlights flickered erratically, casting dancing shadows across overgrown lawns. "It's like time forgot this place," Megan murmured, shivering despite her layers. As they ventured deeper into the neighborhood, an unsettling familiarity washed over them. Houses they'd visited countless Halloweens past stood frozen in eerie perfection, as if plucked from their memories and made manifest. Jack-o'-lanterns leered from every porch, their carved grins too wide, too knowing. The group's laughter grew strained, each joke an attempt to mask the growing unease. They passed Mrs. Henderson's house, always good for full-sized candy bars. The porch light blazed, welcoming trick-or-treaters. "Should we?" Alex asked, hesitating at the end of the walkway. Before anyone could answer, the door creaked open. Mrs. Henderson emerged, looking exactly as she had when they were children, not a day older, not a hair out of place. "Well, hello there, dearies," she cooed, voice syrupy sweet. "My, how you've grown. Come closer, let me see those costumes." The friends exchanged uneasy glances. Something was very, very wrong. The group retreated from Mrs. Henderson's porch, muttering hasty excuses. Her smile never wavered, eyes following their departure with an unsettling intensity. As they hurried down the street, the sensation of being watched prickled at their necks. "Okay, that was weird," Jared said, voice tight. She looked exactly the same, like freakishly the same. Olivia finally spoke, pushing her mask up. "Maybe we shouldn't be here. This doesn't feel right." But curiosity and the pull of nostalgia drove them forward. Each house they passed stirred memories. The DeMarcos, where old Mr. DeMarco would pretend to be scared of their costumes. The Johnsons, with their elaborate haunted garage. The old Victorian at the end of the block that always went dark on Halloween night. Except now, warm light spilled from the Victorians' windows. As they approached, music drifted on the air, a tinny, old-fashioned melody that set their teeth on edge. "I don't remember that house ever being occupied," Megan said, frowning. Alex shrugged, a forced nonchalance in his voice. "Maybe new people moved in. Come on, let's check it out." They crept up the overgrown path, dead leaves crunching beneath their feet. The porch groaned as they stepped onto weathered boards. Before they could knock, the door swung open. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, features obscured by shadow. The voice that emerged was a raspy whisper. like dry leaves scraping across pavement. "We've been waiting for you, children. Come in, come in. The party's just beginning." The interior of the house was bathed in flickering candlelight. Cobwebs draped every surface, and the air was thick with the cloying scent of decay, poorly masked by sickly sweet perfume. Shadowy figures moved at the edges of their vision, always disappearing when looked at directly. "I don't like this," Olivia muttered, gripping Megan's arm. "We should go." But as they turned to leave, they found the door had vanished, replaced by a solid wall. Panic rose in their throats as they realized they were trapped. The raspy voice chuckled, sending chills down their spines. "Oh, but you've only just arrived, and there are so many games to play." Time seemed to stretch and warp within the Victorian house. The friends found themselves separated, each wandering through rooms that defied logic and memory. Mirrors reflected versions of themselves from years past, wide-eyed children in familiar costumes. Whispers echoed from behind closed doors, carrying fragments of long-forgotten conversations. Megan stumbled into what appeared to be her childhood bedroom, perfectly preserved. A half-finished homework assignment lay on the desk, the date at the top reading October 30th, 15 years ago. Her breath caught as she noticed a figure huddled beneath the covers of her bed. "Hello?" she called, voice trembling. The figure stirred, slowly sitting up. As the blanket fell away, Megan found herself staring at her 10-year-old self. The child's eyes were hollow, skin pale and waxy. "You left me behind," the young Megan accused, voice echoing unnaturally. "You forgot who you were." Elsewhere in the house, Jared found himself in an endless hallway lined with doors. Each one he opened revealed a moment from his past. Birthdays, first days of school, quiet afternoons spent reading comics. But as he progressed, the memories grew darker. Arguments with parents, betrayals of friends, moments of cruelty he'd tried to forget. "Stop it!" he shouted, slamming a door shut on a particularly painful scene. "This isn't real." A cold laugh answered him, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Oh, but it is. Every choice, every regret. It's all here, waiting for you." Alex and Olivia found themselves in what appeared to be the house's basement. Water dripped from unseen pipes, and the walls seemed to pulse with a sickly organic rhythm. Scattered across the floor were artifacts from their shared history, report cards, yearbooks, photographs curling at the edges. "What is this place?" Olivia whispered, clutching Alex's hand. Before he could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Mr. Caldwell, their old elementary school principal. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken and glassy. "Welcome back, troublemakers," he said, voice grating like rusted metal. "Ready for detention? It's going to be a long one." As the friends struggled to make sense of their surroundings, a realization began to dawn. This wasn't just a trip down memory lane. The neighborhood, the house, these apparitions from their past. It was all a trap, a web of nostalgia turned toxic, designed to ensnare them in the very moments they'd tried to leave behind. The four friends reunited in what should have been the living room, now a twisted parody of their old elementary school classroom. Desks were haphazardly arranged, their surfaces carved with cruel messages and desperate pleas. At the front stood a chalkboard, words appearing and vanishing of their own accord. "What's happening?" Megan asked, voice cracking. "How do we get out of here?" Before anyone could answer, the room filled with a cacophony of familiar voices. Parents, teachers, classmates, all speaking at once, a tidal wave of expectations and judgments. "You'll never amount to anything. Why can't you be more like your sister? I'm so disappointed in you." The friends huddled together, hands clasped tightly, as they tried to block out the onslaught. But the voices only grew louder, more insistent. Suddenly, Olivia straightened, eyes blazing with determination. "No," she said, voice quiet but firm. "We're not doing this. We're not kids anymore." As if triggered by her words, the room began to shift and warp. The walls bled into scenes from their lives, triumphs and failures, moments of joy and heartbreak. And at the center of it all, 4 small figures materialized, their younger selves frozen in time on that long-ago Halloween night. "Don't you want to stay?" the children asked in unison, voices echoing with an unnatural resonance. "Here, you'll never have to grow up, never have to face the disappointments of adulthood." Alex stepped forward, kneeling to meet his younger self's gaze. "But we did grow up," he said gently. "And yeah, it's hard sometimes, but it's also amazing. We've done things we never could have imagined as kids." Jared nodded, finding his voice. "We've made mistakes, sure, but we've learned from them, become better people because of them." "The past is important," Megan added, "but it's not everything. We can't stay here forever." The room trembled, reality seeming to fracture around them. The younger versions of themselves began to fade, expressions a mixture of longing and acceptance. Olivia took a deep breath, addressing the dissipating apparitions. "Thank you for the memories, but it's time for us to go home." With a deafening crack, the world around them shattered like glass. The friends found themselves standing once more at the entrance to Maple Grove Estates. The dilapidated sign swung gently in the breeze, paint fresh and gleaming in the moonlight. The street beyond bustled with activity, children in costumes darting from house to house, parents chatting on sidewalks, jack-o'-lanterns casting a warm glow across manicured lawns. For a moment, no one spoke. The contrast between the nightmare they'd just escaped and the scene before them was jarring. "Did that really happen?" Jared finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. Megan reached out, squeezing his hand. I think so. But look, everything's normal now." As they stood there, processing, a group of kids ran past, laughing and comparing candy hauls. The sound seemed to break the spell that had fallen over them. Alex cleared his throat. "So, do we still want to trick or treat?" A beat of silence, then Olivia burst out laughing. It was contagious, the tension of the night dissolving as they all joined in. "You know what?" Megan said, wiping tears from her eyes. "I think I'm good. How about we hit up that new bar downtown instead?" Agreement came quickly, and they turned away from their old neighborhood. As they walked, the conversation flowed easily, touching on shared memories, but focusing more on plans for the future. Dreams, ambitions, the excitement of the unknown that lay ahead. Just before they rounded the corner, Jared glanced back. For a split second, he thought he saw 4 small figures standing beneath the Maple Grove Estates sign, waving goodbye. He blinked, and they were gone. "Everything okay?" Alex asked, noticing his hesitation. Jared smiled, a mix of nostalgia and contentment washing over him. "Yeah," he said, turning back to his friends. "Everything's great." As they disappeared into the night, the neighborhood settled into its familiar Halloween rhythm. But there was a subtle shift in the air, a sense that something had changed. The past, it seemed, had finally been laid to rest. As the friends made their way downtown, the bustling energy of Halloween night enveloped them. Costumed revelers filled the streets, their laughter and chatter a stark contrast to the eerie silence they'd left behind. But even as they tried to lose themselves in the festive atmosphere, a nagging sense of unease persisted. They found a table at The Cauldron, a trendy new bar decked out in over-the-top Halloween decor. Jack-o'-lanterns grinned from every corner, and fake cobwebs draped across the ceiling. As they settled in with their drinks, an uncomfortable silence fell over the group. Finally, Megan spoke up, her voice barely audible over the thrum of music and conversation. We're not going to talk about what happened back there." The others exchanged uneasy glances. Alex took a long swig of his beer before responding. "What is there to talk about? We got spooked by some old memories. It happens." But even as he spoke, his hand trembled slightly, betraying his forced nonchalance. Olivia leaned in, her eyes darting nervously around the bar. "It was more than that," she insisted. "You all felt it, right? Like we were trapped. Like something was feeding on our fears." Jared nodded slowly, his zombie makeup now smeared and flaking. "I saw things, versions of myself I'd tried to forget, mistakes I'd buried. As they began to open up, sharing fragmented recollections of their ordeal, a weight seemed to lift. The terror of the experience slowly gave way to a mix of awe and relief. They had faced their pasts, confronted the shadows of childhood, and emerged stronger for it. But even as they found comfort in their shared experience, a subtle shift in the atmosphere around them went unnoticed. The bar patrons seemed to blur at the edges, their features becoming indistinct. The Halloween decorations took on a more sinister cast, the jack-o'-lanterns' grins stretching impossibly wide. And in the corner, unnoticed by the four friends, sat a figure shrouded in shadow. Its form seemed to flicker and change, alternating between that of an old man and a young child. A crooked smile played across its face as it watched the group intently. As the night wore on, the friends' conversation drifted from their harrowing experience to lighter topics. They reminisced about happier Halloween memories, shared updates on their lives, and made tentative plans for future get-togethers. The warmth of friendship and alcohol slowly pushed the lingering unease to the background. But as last call approached, a sudden chill swept through the bar. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to shimmer and distort. When everything settled, the friends found themselves alone in the now empty establishment. "What the hell?" Alex muttered, rising unsteadily to his feet. Before anyone could respond, a familiar raspy voice filled the air. "Did you really think you could escape so easily?" The shadowy figure from the corner materialized before them, its form continuously shifting between young and old. "You carry a piece of that neighborhood with you always. A part of you will forever remain there, trapped in amber, forever young." Panic gripped the group as they realized the nightmare wasn't over. The bar's exits sealed themselves, leaving them once again trapped in a twisted version of reality. "No," Megan said firmly, standing to face the entity. "We dealt with this. We moved on." The figure chuckled, the sound like dry leaves crumbling. "Did you? Or did you simply run away? There's always a price for nostalgia, children. Always a toll to be paid for looking back." As it spoke, tendrils of shadow began to creep towards the friends, carrying whispers of regret and lost innocence. They huddled together, the bond forged by their shared ordeal, providing a measure of protection against the encroaching darkness. Olivia's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "It feeds on it," she whispered. "On our attachment to the past, our fear of the future." Jared nodded, a look of determination settling over his features. "Then we stop feeding it." With a shared glance of understanding, the four friends stood tall, facing the entity together. "Our past shaped us," Alex declared, his voice growing stronger with each word. "But it doesn't define us." "We honor our memories," Megan added, "but we don't live in them." "The future is uncertain," Olivia continued, "but that's what makes it exciting. Jared completed the thought, his voice ringing with conviction. We're not afraid to grow up, to change, to become who we're meant to be. As they spoke, the shadows began to recede. The entity's form flickered more rapidly, its power seeming to wane. With a howl of frustration, it lunged towards them in one last desperate attempt. But at that moment, the first light of dawn broke through the windows. The entity dissolved into mist, its final words echoing in the air. Remember, a part of you will always belong to Halloween night. The bar returned to normal around them, early morning sunlight chasing away the last vestiges of shadow. The friends stood in silence for a moment, processing all that had transpired. Finally, Jared broke the silence with a wry chuckle. So, same time next year? The tension broke as they all burst into laughter, the sound tinged with relief and a newfound appreciation for the present moment. As they made their way out into the crisp morning air, they knew that while a part of them would always cherish their childhood Halloweens, their true adventures were just beginning. And so, dear viewers, our tale comes to an end. But remember, every ending is just a new beginning in disguise. The spirits of Halloween linger always, waiting for those who dare to peer too long into the shadows of their past. Sleep well, and perhaps check under your bed before you do. Subscribe for more chilling tales from the Nightmare Maestro.